For those who are new to the channel, I've been watching VeChain for a few years now, and VeChain and Vet, along with Cardano and ADA, are one of my favorite crypto investments, and one of the biggest in my portfolio. And the reason as to why VeChain is one of my favorite cryptos is because of how much adoption and actual use VeChain have, but also because of the size of the logistics industry which VeChain are in, helping companies by enabling access to better information than they would have otherwise had. And I really think that 2021 is going to be the year that VeChain begin to experience significant growth in adoption, and correspondingly in the value of Vet. And the reason for that is because of the nature of VeChain's business. Again, VeChain of course operate in supply chain management and logistics, and as unfortunate as the pandemic has been for all of us, if there has been one benefit, it's that people are now shopping online and businesses are now opting for deliveries instead of going to the wholesaler, and there has really been an extra layer of transportation added to many supply chains and transactions. And so in 2021 there has been a huge acceleration in the growth of the size of the logistics business. I mean, it was already growing at a fairly rapid pace before the pandemic, as traditional brick and mortar stores were closing down by the day, and these companies were taking their businesses online, but the pandemic has really been a catalyst for the growth of the logistics business on a scale which has previously been unseen. And of course, because VeChain are in the logistics industry, they have a much larger and more quickly growing market to source potential customers in, and that is a very good thing, as remember that while in the short term the price of Vet seems to bear no connection to the performance of the platform, in the long run the price of Vet will be determined by how well VeChain do in terms of generating further adoption and landing new partnerships, and so growth in the logistics industry has a direct positive influence on the long-term value of Vet. Now you may be wondering why and whether these points are still valid, as after the pandemic is over, businesses and people will get back to normality, and won't things just return to their pre-pandemic state? And this is something which I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and the answer in my view is that while some people and businesses will go back to their pre-pandemic consumption habits, in many cases they also won't. And that's because first of all, many people have figured out that in many cases it's easier to do things online, and probably more time efficient and cheaper as well. And so this segment of the market will likely represent a permanent shift in consumer demand, and therefore a permanent growth in the size of VeChain's target market. And the second reason is that we aren't going to go back to pre-pandemic lifestyle in every respect. Some things will likely return to normal straight away, some things will take many years, and other things will likely never change. Many businesses and people have discovered that they really don't need an office to work from, and that there isn't really any need for them to go into a store as they can get the same thing online, and so these changes again much of the time are going to be permanent. And I have a theory that VeChain now have a golden opportunity to capitalize on this window of time. There will be a lot of competition coming VeChain's way, because wherever there is a market where sudden growth takes place and there is a lot of potential, people flock to that area and set up their own organizations. But the thing is, this doesn't happen overnight, especially in a high-tech industry like blockchain, where there are significant barriers to entry that prevent immediate competition. You know, even if I decided today that I want to compete with VeChain, I couldn't just start competing. I'd have to create an idea, and then raise the capital and put together a team, and then hire premises and ensure that my organization was legally compliant, and all of this before I could even start developing a product, which I'd then have to market and try to gain traction with. And so I believe that VeChain have a year or two before we start to see a lot of competition coming into the space. But providing that VeChain play their cards right, 2021 is long enough to cement their position as the #1 dominant player in the space. Logistics is a $6 trillion industry, and that figure is probably remarkably higher after the pandemic, and in the last year there has been a growth in the number and the value of the logistics industry like never before. We have quite literally seen 10 years worth of growth occur in a period of a year, and there are so many new potential partners that VeChain should be snapping up, while the competition are still stuck in the starting blocks scrambling to get their product to market. And the thing that is really useful is that VeChain already have a track record which is fairly compelling. You know, in business there is nothing as persuasive as a good track record. If you own a business or you're in charge of hiring at another company, the main thing that you'll be looking at is past experience and punctuality and so on. In other words, you want to see proof, and it's no different than when you're looking for a plumber or in VeChain's case, a supply chain analytics company. In all cases you want to see proof and positive reviews, and you want to know that you're going to get your money's worth. And the fact that VeChain have a number of companies with billions of dollars of revenue each year as partners is fairly compelling, especially in a relatively young market where there isn't much competition. 2021 is a crucial year for VeChain in my opinion, and the most important of their life so far. What will VeChain do in the coming year, and how will they seize the opportunity which is in front of them in terms of the massive influx of potential partners and no immediate increase in competition, will make or break this crypto. And that's why I'm going to be keeping an eye on VeChain's partnerships list, and I expect to see substantial growth in the number of partnerships in 2021, and I also expect that the value of VET will rise in proportion to the growth in adoption and partnerships. But having said that, it's also important to remember that in the short term, the price doesn't always properly reflect the value of VET or any other crypto at that particular point in time. The crypto market, like any other financial market, is cyclical, and so it moves up and down, sometimes becoming oversold and sometimes becoming overvalued. And while this is in my view a good thing, as it presents plenty of opportunity for good entry points for the diligent investor, it also means that we can't always expect that an increase in adoption will immediately equate to an increase in market value. And that's why it's important to not only study the market price and cyclical movements of VET, but it's also important to watch the partnerships and adoption figures as well. At the end of the day, it's these numbers which drive real growth and the real value, and eventually, that value will be reflected in the market value. As Benjamin Graham said, in the short term the market is a voting machine, but in the long term it's a weighing machine. Anyway, that's why I believe that 2021 will be a year of massive growth in the adoption and partnerships of VeChain, providing that they play their cards right. I mean, this type of opportunity is the type of thing which will happen once in a lifetime if the investors are lucky, and I really do have high hopes for this year. If you enjoyed the video, I'd like to ask you to do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, so that we can grow and that I can spend more time researching and producing videos. Thanks for watching.